What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another wonderful episode 2 of the Cool Your Jets podcast. It's your boy, D-Zuv. That's full pun intended for all my Sharks fans out there, and for non-Sharks fans, you're going to understand why I use that little pun to get this podcast going. But again, so excited to be able to launch another episode here and drop this with you guys. I do want to give a shout out to everybody who's been so supportive, just giving me a ton of love, a lot of reassurance to just continue to get this thing rolling and see where this takes me. I couldn't do it without the love and support for you guys, so it truly doesn't go unnoticed. It's truly appreciated. I know I'll probably regret that when I have a 12-year-old probably calling me some names that I'm not going to want to hear, but that's when I'll know I'll make it. I'll make it when I have a 12-year-old calling me names on a podcast, or anybody else who is going to be trying to troll me for that matter. So we have a ton to get into today, a lot of sports, a lot of coverage. It is March 29th, 2026. Lovely Sunday, and the content gods decided to say, you know what? You said you weren't going to talk about March Madness, but you're going to talk about some March Madness here. So it would be a disservice, it'd be disingenuous to at least not talk about the Uconn Duke game that happened. Michigan, blowout against Tennessee. Tennessee made an unbelievable run, so we won't be talking about that. But I do have to start with the Uconn Duke game. Before I get into that, though, here's my sponsor, Nobody. Yep, I'm going to still continue to do that until I get a lovely sponsor. So if you're out there and you're listening and you want me to go ahead and add a way for your company, please send it my way so we can talk. I'd be happy because I'm practicing and I'm going to plug it regardless. Pause. So now that we got the lovely sponsored and what this is brought to you by, again, Nobody would be actually a pretty fun company if they wanted to do that, but that's neither here nor there. You can trademark it if you want. I don't care. So going into the Uconn Duke game with the Elite Eight, unbelievable game, man. I think Uconn was down at 19 at one point going into the second half, and typical Hurley team fashion, they scratched, they clawed, they fought, and they got the dub. And for all the Duke haters out there, I know you guys are completely dancing right now. You're smiling, you're grinning ear to ear, and seeing a Duke demise and a Duke blowing lead loss in a Elite Eight to go to the Final Four. I get that. So I will start with the Duke fans. I'm sorry for you guys. I know you guys get a lot of crap thrown your way. Sometimes rightfully so. I think some Duke fans deserve it. I think others just are a product of the team that they support. But again, regular season ACC champs, ACC tournament champs, it's still an unbelievable season that they had. And I know Schneider's knocking on the door to get that championship. It's just not going to happen this year. As far as UConn, again, what can you say? Hurley, 3 out of 4 years going to the Final Four. 3 out of the last 4 years. That's unbelievable. It's a huge testament to himself, his staff, how the players respond. Again, responding to adversity with being down almost 20 to a team that's is considered a juggernaut, if you will. And what a way to end it. Mullins, who hadn't hit a 3 all game, hits a logo 3 to just say, bye-bye, Duke, smell you later. That's what March is about. So, again, crazy game. Congrats to UConn. Absolutely well-deserved. Hurley, just unbelievable coach, unbelievable staff, unbelievable players. I'm going to keep saying the word unbelievable. Take a shot of water or a shot of your preference of every time I say unbelievable. Then how about that? We'll go through the rest of the podcast doing that. But at the same time, we got a bunch more sports that we're going to be covering now here, but I had to do that. Shout out to UConn for doing so. Killed my bracket. I did have Duke winning it all, so that does hurt a little bit. But at the same time, if that's how it's going to be, that's how it's going to be. So, but for the rest of this podcast now, the meat and potatoes, as I mentioned in the first episode, what the expectations were going to be for today's episode. We're going to get into the absolute abysmal, horrendous performance by the Giants on opening day weekend. We're going to get into the Sharks, though, with some positive. A great win against Columbus that they had on Saturday, which, again, that's where the pun's going to come into play for, and what the expectation now going forward is going to be for them. We are going to get into Lakers talk, a.k.a. Luka MVP. also suspended though, and that's not going to be rescinded in this time. But we're going to get into Lakers expectation, X factor going into playoffs where I can see them, and then we're going to wrap it up with some Falcons talk, which I think some of you guys are wanting to hear that more than any of the other teams. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But again, I'm going to talk about the free agent signings, what I think they might do in the draft, expectations going forward, all that and more. But again, please go ahead, like, subscribe, comment, share, do all those fun things. We are actually now on all platforms. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. And we're on Twitter or X if you're going with that way from Elon. But for the old Twitter heads, I know it's still said Twitter, but we're on X, the everything platform. So we're everything. Please go ahead, give us a nice little follow, nice little shout out. But now's a good time for the Giants talk. I'm gonna set the stage for you, for everybody who's non-Giants fans here. Since Pac Bell, Oracle, AT&T, whichever stadium you decide to call it, there've only been 6 opening day games held at that park since it opened 20 odd years ago. The last one was in 2022, where they played the Miami Marlins and they won 6-5 on a great home opener. Since then, this has been the first one, and the stage was set. You had Netflix there, beautiful day, crowd was electric. You had the smoke flag. Never seen that before, but one of the coolest things I think I've ever seen, the nice little smoke flag that they had firing off for opening day weekend. You have Logan Webb on the bump, Rockland High School's finest, representing the 916 there. Going for a Cy Young. He's been close, but hasn't got the win record, I would say, or the run support to finally get him over that hump. Going against the New York Yankees, who have aspirations on another world championship. And Aaron Judge, or a.k.a. Arson Judge, returned to Oracle Park. Still gets me to this day. And I'm always going to call him Arson. Until I meet him, I'll call him Aaron. I'll shake his hand and then just say, dude, what do you think it would have been if you were Arson? That's a different story for a different time. But, again, beautiful day, sunny skies. First inning, Logan Webb strikes out 2 out of the 3 batters, including Mr. MVP himself, Aaron Judge. We go to the bottom half of the first. We have runners on first and second. We again have only 1 out. Momentum could just absolutely swing in our way. And then we get a strikeout, ground out, and then that's pretty much all she wrote. Logan Webb gives up 5 in the second, but in typical Webby fashion, man, he'll give up a bunch of runs in an inning, but just holds the fort down to at least grind out some more innings for us here, where we didn't have to go completely into the bullpen that early. Unfortunately, with other pitchers, did not have that across the league, that same fortune where they were able to get out of a jam. So he at least gave us a couple more innings to get our bullpen going, but since then, I don't even know how I can even say this stat. Like, what's worse, being shut out at back-to-back games for the first time in your franchise history? That's pretty abysmal. Is it the fact that you scored 1 run in 3 games? Pretty abysmal. Or is 1 run in 3 games worse saying that? Or is it 1 run in 27 innings and not getting that 1 run until 20 total innings? 20 of the 27 innings, you got the 1 run. I don't know. Either way, it was just terrible to watch, gut-wrenching, completely just took the life out of the Oracle Park and bad vibes. I still think this team's got a lot of potential. Again, the Yankees are a juggernaut. I mean, they have a lot of aspirations. They did not like how, obviously, last season ended for them against Toronto. The joke is they brought everybody back, and for Yankees fans, they're like, yeah, Cashman's going to say we brought everybody back, but we get Garrett Cole, so it's like getting our Cy. I get it, but that team is still a wagon. They had a great approach against Webb. Robbie Ray still pitched really well, gave up some runs towards the end, and then Tyler Mahle, great signing, was one of my favorites. I'll get into more of the signings part, but gave up some runs, got hit hard a little bit, got 4 innings out of them. But again, I think that this team's going to have a lot of work. The question mark was going to be the bullpen, and I think the bullpen was the best performance all around that we were able to get out of that team for that series. They held the fort down when starters were getting peppered a little bit. tides were turning. We needed some outings, and they got out of some jams for us. So prior to this series, though, I was a huge fan and still am of them getting Luis Arias. I know there was talks about getting Brendan Donovan or Nico Horner, trading some assets to get one of those guys. To me, I don't know how Giants were so against getting a freaking two-time batting champ. Either way, he's got more batting champs than anybody on the freaking Giants as currently, or that they've had as of recent. And a guy who's going to be giving you great at-bats. He got 3 hits in the series, went 3 for 11 with a walk, had a strikeout, had a stolen base, but their biggest question mark was, his defense. Well, if you've watched Giants baseball and have watched second basemen throughout that time, the inconsistency at second base has been absolutely just abysmal. So I will take a little bit less on the defense, which he still made a couple good plays. I know in the second inning of game 1, he stopped legitimately the ball going into the outfield from having, another run possibly scored or moving more runners. Time will tell, I think, with his mindset, and then telling him, hey, we want you to full-time second base. That always is going to be, from a player perspective, going to be so much appreciated, because that's what Devers respected. We're like, we want you to play first base, DH. That's what we want you to do. We were very upfront, honest. So the honesty with the players and staying true to your word goes a long way. And Buster, that's a big pitch to him, being a player guy, know what he liked and disliked as a player. I think that's going to be something that attracted Luis Arias, and I'm still a big fan of him, man. And he's coming off the Venezuela national, the World Baseball Classic championship. So I know now with that series it was tough, but his signing I think is still going to be huge. It's just a matter of where Tony V is going to be putting him in the lineup. They had him in the leadoff spot. They moved him down in the lineup the game 3. It's going to be really to see where he fits best, and I personally think he should be good in the number 2 spot. I think him with runners on, if we can get it, or having a good at-bat in that second spot for whomever they want to put in the third is going to be huge. But again, we'll see how they mix and match with the lineups with him going forward. But again, a huge fan of the signing, and I'm just still shocked of how many Giants fans were upset with that signing because of some nerd statistics that they're putting.
His fielding percentage was 102 out of 108 different second basemen from 20 when it's dark, and
I don't give a shit. Okay, like, the guy can hit, and that's what we need. Okay, he's a contact hitter, and he makes plays. Going with the Harrison Bader, love that. Absolute locker room guy, great for the vibes. Just the stallion with his hair that flows when he's running the bases, just an absolute stud. And patrolling center field in that ballpark is going to be huge, and it needed to be shown for that. So him, again, he's been in the 9 spot consistently. I think if we can get good value with him in that particular position, he's going to do huge things for us. I'm hoping he's kept. I know he's on a short deal. It will be interesting to see towards the trade deadline to see he's been moved so many times. I hope that we don't. I hope this is a guy that we can keep in the center field and patrolling our outfield, and just good for the vibes. He's rocking the number 9, former Brandon Belt's number, but he looks good in the 9. I'll tell you that much. So, but a great signing again, and a good overall defensive signing, which is what we were needing to go for. Now, here's where the pitching part's going to get interesting from a Giants perspective, because they didn't go out and spend a bunch of money on the pitchers and get a guy like Framber Valdez, where a lot of people were thinking that the Giants should have went ahead and gotten. I was on that train where I think if we can add that kind of lefty who is a good ground ball pitcher, good sinker, let the defense, but also has good postseason appearances, or has been to the postseason a number of times being with the Astros, I thought it was a great signing. I can understand from Buster Posey's perspective, who's a catcher, why he didn't want to. Now, you're not in those locker rooms from a fan perspective, so you don't know how he was, and the reports that were shown about him being bad. You do see that one really bad clip where he kind of shows up his catcher, which Buster Posey will not stand for. If you know Buster, that's not going to fly. So that was probably a reason why he was not really pursued, and he got an absolute freaking deal with Detroit. So, kudos to him, and Detroit's a wagon, if I can talk. I feel like Elmer Fudd, wabbin. But again, I can understand why they didn't get there, and they got more value with Tyler Mahle and Adrian Hauser. Tyler Mahle pitched really well for Texas, and he had some good moments again in the third game of that series. Kind of got a little bit towards the end. where he got a little bit more peppered, but he was really good. And he's pitched in Cincinnati for most of his career, which is a hitter's ballpark. So the numbers are a little bit more inflated, I would say, for him, and then goes to Texas. But he was one of their better pitchers in Texas. And I think he's still going to be a huge addition for this team going forward in a number of different series. I think he's going to be a big X factor. And Adrian Hauser, again, he pitched pretty dang. If you look at his numbers playing for Chicago, pretty well. So it will be interesting to see how everything's going to be incorporated for this with those additions. I know those were the main ones that the Giants are focusing on, or that I'm going to focus on, because they are in the starting lineup and they're the ones that had a lot of experience and the ones that were a little bit more controversial than most. But I do think that this team has got a lot. They got to pick it up quick because they're going to San Diego, which we've had so much success against, right? As I said ever so sarcastically, going into their barn, and they dropped 1 of 2 to Detroit, another AL wagon, and it's going to be an interesting testament to see which of these two teams is really going to get ahead of itself, because guess what, Giants fans, it doesn't get easier because we have the freaking New York Mets coming into town. And then we got the Phillies. So we got a lot going on with this team right now. The starting pitching that is supposed to be for the particular series is going to be Landon Roop. We got Logan Webb, and then they have Hauser going in game 3 right now. So again, it's a huge series. Am I already going to say must win? No, we got to get one on the board. Got to get something, because this schedule early is not great. But if I can switch from Giants years of having early success, which they've had going into the All-Star break, and then complete, sinking the ship after, and switch it to where maybe we start off bad but have a complete rise where this team gels and we make the postseason, yeah, I'll take that. I think any Giants fan will take that. That's a long season. Got a long ways to go. I have full confidence with this team. It's just a matter of gelling. We're going to see how Tony V does. He's got a great staff around him too, so he's got a lot of great support. I'm full confidence with it that we can still make that postseason push and go from there. But again, it's going to be a huge series against San Diego, and they're going to be pissed off that they just lost 1 of 2 to start the year in their place, and now they got a division rival. Which, if you guys have ever been to Petco, another beautiful ballpark. But it's going to be a lot of Giants fans there too. So I need Giants fans to show up in San Diego, maybe go pregame at Bub's or hit a little moonshine afterwards and get the boys rolling. So, but overall, I think we got some work to do, but I'm confident. So now here's going to be a great little ad break for you guys. Ad break is done. Okay, we are going to be moving on now. Lakers are now 9-1 in their last 10 games. Beat Brooklyn on Saturday, and Luka got his wonderful 16th technical foul, which is not going to be rescinded, so he will miss the game Monday against Washington. But I think it's serious time to go ahead and give him some MVP talks. And DraftKings Sportsbook right now has SGA at a -275, which is unreal to me, and Wemby, which is even more surprising, at a +210, and then Luka at +1500. So those are right now the top 3 candidates that they have for the MVP race. I'm not an SGA hater, for all those who are new. I think he's worked his butt off and he's earned everything that he has. It would be more of a hypocritical to me to be like he flops a lot, because everybody in the NBA does flop. But I do think that number is a little bit crazy compared to what everything's going. I would think you would have more of an argument for Wemby getting the MVP talks right now than Luka, but Luka's averaging 33, 7, and 8. Like, what are we doing? And he's putting up absurd numbers. He's carrying this team. Furthermore, I think MVP stands for most valuable player. Well, in the 12 games that Luka's missed, they're 6-6, so they're a 500 ball club. 12 games SGA's missed, the Oklahoma City Thunder 8-4. So, and rightfully so, that team is stacked across the board. They're deep, they play defense, and they can defend you in multiple different ways and score in just as many. Wemby has missed a little bit more game. He's missed 15 games, and the Spurs are 10-5. What are you going to think? What do you take out of that? I take that value, because definitely more valuable for that team, because all the Laker haters, including the media, would say that the Lakers wouldn't even be a playoff team or even in play-in if Luka wasn't available. So I completely agree with that sentiment where LeBron's at now in his career. Austin Reeves playing kind of that third fiddle, but also like, hey, I'm going to be that number 2 at times when LeBron needs a rest. I think that's going to be a huge thing to consider with talking about the MVPs. And if Luka can keep this rate up if they finish in the 3rd seed, still put up the numbers that he's doing, and we can solidify that 3rd seed. I don't know how he's not considered more for it. I mean, the guy's been absolutely stud. I know he's got this personal stuff going on, and people are making jokes about the unfortunate divorce that he's going through and how much better he's playing. Like, I don't want to get into that. I just know that from a court perspective, he's balling, and he's a big reason that this team is moving along, and they're going to have so much success for that. So for this week, though, they have Washington and Cleveland in a back-to-back. So he's going to miss the Washington game, come back home versus Cleveland. They go to Oklahoma City, and then they go to Dallas to end the week. So in the next 4 games, 2 home, 2 away, and they have a back-to-back Monday, Tuesday. They have to go ahead and continue to keep the momentum going into the playoffs. They do this to us every year. They reel us back in with their play. They get us going. They get us hyped. And then playoffs happen, and we go up against some bigs that continue to just absolutely mop the floor with us. Why do I say that? Because right now, if the season were to end today, they would be matched up with Houston, which, and again, Houston fans or people from Houston are probably going to be clipping this. I would prefer that matchup over a lot of the other teams in the West. So if we could stay in the 3 spot, I'd rather play Houston than go up against Minnesota again, go against Denver, which we've had a ton of success, right? I mean, Denver, like maybe we play them. I do not want to do that for the first round. Or going against San Antonio. I'd rather play San Antonio, obviously, in the second round if we can. Again, somebody else is going to clickbait that. But I'd rather go, if they do make it, get into that young team and see how they do in the playoffs with not a lot of experience and go from there. But Minnesota, Denver, Oklahoma City, San Antonio, what do they all have in common? They got bigs. So the huge X factor when it comes to postseason, it's not necessarily going to be LeBron, Luka, or Austin Reeves, which they still will need to play. It's going to be DeAndre Ayton and Jackson Hayes. And last year when JJ Redick went small against Minnesota, we got absolutely crushed on the glass. Rudy Gobert seemed to have the game of his life, or the series of his life. Julius Randle played well, and Ant, did what Ant did. So we got DeAndre for a reason. We need to bring out that number 1 pick in him. He's had his moments too, which I can understand his frustration, but we need the huge X factor from those bigs to contribute defensively and get the points in the paint, points in the elbow, points when their opportunities are there. Jackson Moore in the lob threat. But play a little bit like the JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard in the bubble championship, which is a legit championship, by the way, for all you haters out there that want to dismantle that, which is another story for another day. But I need to get those roles with those bigs to play because, again, if we're fortunate enough to get out of the first round this year, whoever we play in that second round is going to have some dominant bigs that they have to be able to play. So, again, Luka MVP. Let's get this thing rolling. Let's get to postseason healthy. Let's get to the postseason ready to roll and get that championship. And let's send LeBron off for a thank you and tip of cap, because his tenure for Lakers, it's actually, people don't realize, like, he's been a Laker for an incredible part of his career too, and I appreciate him doing so. It's been fun to watch, and I know people have their visions of him, but you got to appreciate LeBron and appreciate what he's done for the 23 years he's been in the NBA. So I would love to send him off on a high road with a championship and get Luka's first. Austin Reeves get his. We get everybody getting going, and JJ Redick getting the championship too would be pretty interesting to see, for everybody saying podcaster gone coach. Now it's going to be time for another ad read brought to you by Still nobody. So we are moving on now with some wonderful hockey news. And Igor Chernisov with an unbelievable one-timer to end the game against Columbus. Well, I mean, the late go-ahead game against Columbus to get us some much-needed 2 points. The Sharks are 3-6-1 in their last 10 games, with that one overtime loss coming to St. Louis, who they play on Monday. And that game hurts beyond measure, because if you're a Sharks fan and watching that, the fact that they scored with like 4 seconds left before it became a shootout just crushes you even more. So for them to bounce back on Saturday to get, they were down 2-1 going into the third. They get a quick goal from the face-off with Macklin Celebrini, getting that opportunity to get us tied. And then we had the little tic-tac-toe from Celebrini to Smith to Igor to take that go-ahead goal. Mind you, that was also Macklin's 100th NHL assist. People, this kid is unreal. I was going to say the other word so you can take a shot of whatever it is if you remember, but I'm going to switch it up for you. So Sharks have 11 games left on the schedule. 6 of those games are going to be 2 against Anaheim, 2 against Chicago, and then 2 against Nashville. And Nashville's fighting for that spot. They're 4 points out from that wild card spot, but they're only a few as in a little bit of 7 points from the Vegas Golden Knights, which, by the way, people, they just fired their coach, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Oh wait, no, wrong guy. Just Bruce Cassidy. Definitely surprised on that. So I'll take a pause on the Sharks break for all my Vegas listeners out there. I can understand the frustration that they were having for a bit, but I did not think that they were going to release him or fire him or let him go, whatever way you want to phrase it, right before going into postseason, I will say. I thought depending on how they were going to do in the postseason, if they were going to have an exit early, that was probably going to be an indicator he was going to be gone. But definitely didn't think they were going to cut him and then bring in John Tortorella, he's a fiery guy. And it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to implement his strategy, his style this late in the year with a new team. He's a very well-respected coach. He's an old-school coach. So from Vegas, we're going to see it's just crazy how they did that. And again, now with going into postseason play, Vegas is in that third spot now. Anaheim took the 1. We have Edmonton 2, and now Vegas has dropped to that third spot in the Pacific, with a lot of teams on their tail. Again, the Sharks are only a few points back from them. They don't obviously play Vegas anymore, but the rest of their schedule, they can earn some wins, and Vegas keeps slouching down. Who knows? Who knows what can happen? But as I mentioned, those 6 games, and then they have Toronto, St. Louis on Monday, Vancouver, Winnipeg, and then Edmonton. And Edmonton, we have to not blow a freaking lead to Edmonton this time. I know McJesus is the GOAT, but that Calgary, Edmonton, right before the Olympics, or it was Edmonton then Calgary, so the Alberta series definitely put us in a bad spot, and to me was a huge kind of turning point for how the season was going to go. Dropping those 2 games were much needed, and now we put ourselves in a position where we're clawing and we're fighting back. It's been so fun to watch this team play, though. I will say it's been refreshing from what years past. I know we're getting a little bit more on the stingy side if now, but I'm still grateful to watch this team play, see the young core that they have. Nedeljkovic has been grinding a lot more with good old Askey being out, but I think that this team has potential to make that push, and they got a little bit burnt out. You can tell they're a little bit tired. The legs are dragging, but this is going to be a time where they got to push through it with these last 11 games and see if we can get that playoffs. Now, in doing so, we'd be the 8th seed unless we can somehow catch Vegas and then play Edmonton in that series, or Anaheim if they drop, because we do play them twice. They could. So there's a lot of things that factors come into play, but if they do get that last wild card spot, everybody's going to be like, well, Colorado's just going to mop the floor with you. Probably, but at the same time, they did have Mackenzie Blackwood, which was a former Sharks goalie, and I don't think it's going to be as much of a butt whooping as people might think. I think the Sharks maybe snag 1 or 2. Obviously, Colorado's a wagon, though, and they got championship aspirations, but there's a lot of fun things that are going to be coming here in the next couple weeks to see how they end. But it does start tomorrow with St. Louis at home in the Shark Tank, rocking and rolling. Need to go get ahead and get those 2 points. So, we got some good things, but it was incredible to see the young guns continue to fly and roll with it. But shout out to Igor. That guy, remember when he had 8 points in his first 7 games? Yeah, he's back, and he's an absolute mammoth of a human being with a great freaking one-timer on that. And you can tell the boys were hyped for him too, because he was battling a little bit of injuries throughout the year too before he got sent back down. So really excited to see him and get that moment to just get us those 2 points. So keep it going, Sharks fans. Let me know what else we got going on, or what else that you want me to say. But again, I'm excited, very grateful that this team has kind of turned a corner, and we got a lot of momentum and some high hopes going forward. With a lot of the heartbreak we've had, we deserve to have some moments here. So now is going to be another great time for a wonderful ad break before we finish up with our final segment. And ad break is done. Okay, we are back, and we are now going to be finishing up with some Atlanta Falcons talk, which I think, again, a lot of you are here for, to just laugh in my face about the Atlanta Falcons and the fact that it's been 10 years since the last playoff appearance and 10 years since the last playoff win. I don't think people comprehend the last playoff win they had was against the Los Angeles Rams, when they had the ugly helmet jersey combo that didn't really match, and they played in the freaking LA Coliseum. They weren't even at SoFi at this point. We beat them in the Coliseum. Wild thought. And then to have our heartbreak against Philly, where we decided to do a boundary rollout to throw to Julio Jones where nobody's there, and the Keanu Neal missed interception. I love Keanu Neal. He battled some injuries and had some moments, but that hurts in those moments. So that's our last playoff experience, was a heartbreak in Philly at Lincoln, and we have not yet sniffed really the postseason in that manner. So why am I saying this now? Because again, it's a whole new regime that's coming in. We got Stefanski, Ian Cunningham, Matt Ryan. I believe in them. I know Stefanski hire was not one of the more popular choices for Falcons fans, but let me tell you something about Falcons fans. We're not going to agree. There's never going to be actually any fan base, but let alone Falcons fans, that are full-heartedly going to agree on anything, whether it's the coach, free agent signings, draft picks, legitimately anything we're not going to fully agree on. The Stefanski hire was interesting, I think, altogether, and people are talking about his winning record the last 2 years. Well, before the Deshaun Watson trade, where they literally mortgaged their entire freaking team, he had a winning record, was coach of the year twice, and took him to the postseason, and had a postseason win in Cleveland. Which one of those postseason wins was beating Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh? And I know Cleveland fans out there, they're saying good luck, but I have full confidence that he's going to turn it around and be. I love Raheem as a defensive guy, as a player coach. I appreciated him having a lot of the players' backs in situations, but the same mistakes over and over again that were being made were, I don't even want to say frustrating, because that doesn't do it justice. It's beyond whatever frustrating is, another word above that is watching those games and the clock management, timeouts. You can go back to every game 2 years ago. You can go back this year where we were still making the same mistakes, the unfortunate losses, everything in that instance. So getting Stefanski in there, it's going to be a different kind of scheme, of course, from the offensive side, but we're still keeping Ulbrich there. So defensively, I still think we're going to be great. And I think that keeping Ulbrich was a huge addition for that, even though I know there was times that we got gashed. But again, Ulbrich was a big bright spot for changing that defense and going from where we were not getting any pressure on the quarterback to generating pressures to having good defensive, statistics all across the board and ranked well when healthy. The Falcons defense actually had a really respectable defense. So very excited that they kept him. Tommy Rees, however, for the OC and the fact that he's going to be calling plays, I'm a little nervous about. Full transparency, a little bit nervous with Tommy Rees, but I gotta trust it, guys. I have to trust something here and have some faith. Like I said, it's been 10 years. We're going to see how this works with this new regime and coaching staff, but everything's going to be different. Stefanski style, how we're going to operate. And with the upcoming schedule, we play the NFC North and the AFC North along with our division. So he's going to be facing his old team again, and that old division, he was in there for quite some time. And then obviously with the resurgence of the NFC North, we got some work we're going to have to do. But I've got full faith in this team with the signings that they've done. Again, we don't have our first round draft pick, which I'm not, as upset about. I know with James Pierce now, hindsight, I'm not going to get too much into that, but it paid off. We got Pierce and Xavier Watts from the deal. I don't know yet how the Pierce legal situation is going to come on, so I'm not going to comment on something I don't really have an idea with. We will cross that bridge when it happens, but that kind of goes again with how the Falcons targeted and went after in the free agency aspect. So again, I don't know if Falcons fans were thinking like, hey, we're just going to go out and be front runners to spend all this money, because that wasn't going to happen. We did go ahead and release Kirk Cousins and save some in that instance, but a lot of the deals were going to be depth moves. That was very, very known what they were going to do. They were going to do depth because we didn't have much depth, especially on the defensive side when we got hurt and banged up. Like, it definitely took a toll on us. So getting into those free agencies, or free agent signings, if you will, the biggest one, we'll just get it right off the bat, was Tua. And the initial part was a little bit shocking. But again, like everybody was talking about, they were on Kyler Murray, or that we were possibly going to go get Joe Flacco to reunite with Stefanski. Again, whatever quarterback that the Falcons would have got, no Falcons fans were going to be like, yep, that's it. So getting Tua, to me, I had to take a step back and think about it from the team perspective. One, he played pretty well in the stadium, as we saw last year when he came in and torched us with the Dolphins were at an all-time low and lost to Cleveland and got their butts whooped. He came back in and slang it against us. And he plays well in that stadium to begin with. As you know, he got what we call a national championship in that stadium where he came in from relief. So he likes playing in Atlanta, and I think that should hopefully carry over. Now it's the lefty quarterback situation. That's, I think, where it made the most sense to get him from a scheme perspective, from an offensive line and protection standpoint. If you have two lefties, your protection's really not changing as much going from a lefty to a righty. So having at least, your blind side being still the same blind side, being on that right tackle area, I think that's obviously why they wanted to go ahead and do so. Now we don't have to really worry about too much of the cold weather games, because, we play 8 games that are going to be in a dome for the Falcons, at least, plus one in New Orleans. So he's not going to have to play in too much cold weather as he had to do in Buffalo. Now, granted, we play the AFC North, so depending on when the schedule comes out and when we play some of those teams, it might get a little chilly. But I think that he's going to be a huge addition for us. I think he's going to have a resurgence. I know he's, from the outside perspective, he's a couple hits away from maybe hanging him up. But at the same time, I think that he's going to have some resurgence, and I have to believe. Guys, again, everything I'm saying when it comes to the Falcons, I have to believe one way or the other. So, moving on, no from Tua. Again, he's going to battle it out. I do think he's probably going to start week 1. I don't think they're going to rush Penix back. He's probably going to be the starter week 1, foreseeing all health concerns. But moving on with some of the else of the signings, we got some of the boys back. We got Zacchaeus. We got Austin Hooper, a.k.a. Mr. Stanford, a.k.a. De La Salle's finest. We got Zacchaeus back, who has improved. I mean, the role that Zacchaeus played with the teams that he went to afterwards, which I believe was Chicago, Philly, and Washington. I might be missing one other ones, but he played such a key role in any of those teams. He was blocking well. He made some big-time catches, so it's good to see his transition, to see how he comes back in the ATL. We got Jahan Dotson. People who know me are just having a smile right now because they know I'm forcing to say some of these names and being excited about that. But I think Jahan Dotson, he's a first-round pick, kind of bounced around, went to a crowded wide receiver room in Philly, so it's going to be interesting to see how he learned and adapt playing with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, what he's learned, because he made some plays when they threw him the ball. So he's going to be our number 2 right now. And yeah, it's a little bit interesting to say, but let's see if we can bring the talent out of him. And he has that resurgence too. I mean, not just quarterbacks can have resurgence late in their career. So defensively, again, a bunch of depth moves, with but my favorite is going to be Christian Harris, linebacker. He's fast, he's athletic, he's big, he can move sideline to sideline. I think he's going to probably be the best defensive addition that we got. Again, got him on a 1-year deal, but more in the depth side. When Diablo went out, and we had We had JD Bertrand. It's tough for me to say. I know the man has a family. I know he's been getting cooked online for a while, but again, when you're wearing a Guardian cap and you're not playing well at linebacker, you're going to get roasted. I'm sorry about it. It is what it is. But Christian Harris provides that depth and he provides that speed that we need going forward. And the Sidney Brown trade that they got, where the Falcons swapped with the Eagles late 4th and 6th round picks and then got Sidney Brown, I think that's a huge addition. And Philly fans out there are going to kind of just be like, it's whatever. Like, thanks, But from, again, a depth perspective, we got Watts, we got Bates. Adding him, who's made some big plays, who's got a long career, I would say, already within the NFL and respectable player. Like, I think that's a huge addition too for the safeties in the back end for the defense, and a guy that I think Ulbrich can really trust in different roles and different situations. So will be interesting else to see. We got Deshaun Hand, Mikael London, Cameron Thomas, Azeez Ojulari, who surprisingly comes to the full circle moment when talks before on the Giants, they were thinking about trading for him prior, and now he signs with us. And then we got Sampson. I'm not going to do the Jason Witten and completely butcher his name like that Monday night many years ago, that epic Monday night. But we got some people, and with the additions they've got, again, they're depth pieces. But my favorite now, because I was waiting for that, is Brian Robinson. Love Brian Robinson, man. I think it's just kind of ironic too that the Falcons are signing players that have had injury history. Brian, had his unfortunate incident, but he's bounced back. He's going to be huge for this team. He's going to be replacing the Tyler Algier role in the sense of where we need that number 2 behind Bijan. He catches well, he runs well, he blocks well, he does everything you need. And Stefanski's a big 2 running back kind of guy. He's going to need the 2 running back workload. Bijan's going to get obviously a lot of it, but having Brian Robinson there as that second running back for us. I mean, I know we also got Tyler Goodson, but I think Brian Robinson's going to be that number 2 running back. If Goodson somehow beats him out, great. I'll trust it. But I think, Brian, and for the fantasy owners out there, please make sure you know which Robinson you're taking. Depending on your commissioner, they might not be so light to make those adjustments. But going into the draft now to wrap this up, again, we don't have a first round pick. Cunningham, Matt Ryan, Stefanski, they've been very adamant about building into the trenches. But let me let you guys in on a little secret when it comes to the Falcons, okay? Anything you think that they will do in the draft, they're not going to do it. So would I love to see them go ahead and get another solidified defensive lineman, because, again, we don't know what James Pierce is going to be, or we need some more depth on the offensive line. It can never hurt. It wouldn't surprise me if they take like a wide receiver in the second round again. It's just a tale as old as time. So it will be interesting to see how they attack that. I think there's going to be good value in those later rounds, and probably why they also wanted to swap those picks with the Eagles, because I still think that where their direction is and players they can target in those particular late rounds is going to be vital to this team's success. But at the same time, that second round pick is going to be hilarious if it's going to be like a wide receiver. I'm telling you, it's not going to be off the table with something crazy that they end up doing. So my hope, my wish on March 29th, 2026 is that they make the freaking postseason. I'm hoping this podcast gets this team into the postseason. All right, how about that? ATL, we're going to rise up. We're going to go to the postseason, host a playoff game. We're going to win the South, and we're going to go from there. All right. And then as long as we're in the dance, baby. That's all that matters. We're wrapping up here now. So it was a little bit longer of a podcast here. As I mentioned before, we had a lot to cover. But I truly appreciate everybody. Like I said, please like, subscribe, comment, share, follow, any of the above. But I really appreciate you guys stopping by, and we'll see you again at the end of the week. Appreciate you. Take care.